back. Today I just got a quick video I'm going to do. It's just a quick service on my bike. It's a shaft drive. It doesn't have a chain, so there's no chain maintenance, but it's not maintenance free. You do need to do some maintenance to this bike, and primarily you need to change out the rear gear oil. Even though it's shaft drive, this rear gear oil is pretty critical that it gets changed. And when I first bought the bike, I don't think it had ever been changed, and it's a 1988. When it came out, it was white. It was milky white and oily, meaning that not only was it old, but water had made its way in there, and I'm sure that's just a sign of age because it's not leaking, but there's a vent on there, and if vapor can get out, water vapor can get inside, and well, that's what we had. So I've changed it regularly, and I also changed it probably 500 miles ago, so I'm trying to change it more frequently until I'm satisfied that all the muck is out of there, because the last thing you want to do is run any kind of cleaner through that, because there are seals in there, they'll go bad. Anyhow, it's real quick. You crack off one bolt, you drain it, you crack off the other one, you fill it up. I mean, it couldn't be easier, so there's no excuse for it not to be serviced. It is so easy, and let me show you. Alright, here's the back wheel. This is how easy this is. That's the drain, that's the fill cap, and this is the vent I was talking about. So all we have to do here is, if you notice, I'm leaving the bike on the side stand, leaning over on the side stand, and the reason why I want to do that is because it puts the drain, my little drain pan here, which I need to take to the store. The drain plug, if you put it on the bike on the side stand, this is at a downward angle, and you'll get the most that you can drain out of that possible. Now, I've ridden this bike around. I didn't get it screaming hot or anything, but I did get this warm, and we just want to crack off this bolt. And I'm going to tell you right now that your drain bolt is going to be really difficult to get off, because I guarantee you, unless you've owned the bike since it was new and you've done the service, that has not been changed. It happens so often. People buy shaft drive bikes, they read the advertisement, needs nothing. You know, when they buy the used bike, they see it on Craigslist or Cycle Trader or wherever they bought it from, and the ad says, ready to go, needs nothing, just serviced. And you know, granted, the guy who owned it, maybe they changed the oil or they did some other service, but I guarantee you they didn't change the gear oil in the final drive on their shaft drive. People just don't do it. And I've seen other bikes shaft drive, and this is always the case. If your bearings back here or the gear reduction assembly on the inside, I think it's just a ring and pinion gear, if it ever fails, it should never fail. The rest of the bike should give out before then. Anyhow, I'm waffling on here, so let's get this undone. Now, I've just loosened that a little bit. And for reference, for all you Super Magna owners out there, that is a 6mm bolt. For sure, that is a 6mm bolt. Then this bolt here, 17 mil for the cap. So, get my pan in position here. I'm going to loosen this up just a little bit. I'm going to take out the drain bolt all the way. And I kind of have the pan positioned in either case in case I get drippage. And not too bad. Not too bad at all. It was a little clearer. Now, mind you, this bike is an 88. It's 2014. And the fluid had not been changed till I bought the bike in 07. So it sat well over 2 decades with almost no service. And that oil is coming out pretty clean. It's not too streaky, not too nasty. Let's get this plug off here. You see there's a rubber O-ring on here that we will have to lubricate when we put it back in. But all in all, it is starting to look better all the time. So we're going to let that drain until she stops dripping. And if it's the first time you've ever done it, put your bike up on the lift or jack the back end up and go ahead and rotate the wheel around in both directions and as it's draining, and then let it sit. But since I already went out and rode the bike, whatever muck that may have been in here has pretty much been stirred around and it should have drained out. So I'm going to clean up this. I'm going to clean up my plug and my my cap for the fill, and then I'm going to fill it back up. Couldn't be easier. I'm actually, if I wasn't sitting here talking about it and describing what it is and why it needs to be done, this should take 5 minutes tops. It's super easy. Alrighty, that is pretty much as drained as it's gonna get. And I'm just getting some residual oozage out of there. And what I did, instead of putting the bike up on a stand, because I've done this enough times, I put the bike on just a couple of blocks on the side stand so that it sits level. Now when I go to fill up the rear gear case here, it will be the correct level, because all you got to do is just fill it up till the oil starts running out right there. There's no excuse for this not to be done. It is so easy. So, one last little cleaning wipe. Clean all your hardware off before it goes back in. This just has to be done up snug. You do not over tighten this. This is aluminum, this is steel. That would be very difficult to get back off if you ate that sucker on. So I'll hold my Allen wrench nice and tight, or nice and close to the 90-degree angle on it, so I can't get a lot of leverage. And all I'm going to do is just snug it up. That's it. You do not have to kill this thing. It is not going to leak. If it does leak, all you have to do is get a new aluminum or copper washer. Or you can take the old one and you can anneal it. So now, all I have to do is put gear oil in it. A word about that is Honda has put right on the case, use Hypoid gear oil SAE 80. Well, that's all well and good in 1988. However, being 2014, we have some better stuff. And here's what we're using. Now, it is an 80W90, which is fine. It doesn't have to be straight 80. But this stuff's made by Lucas, and it has their oil stabilizer already added to it. And this is made for extreme duties in like differentials of trucks and stuff like that. And it's okay for if you have a limited slip differential in your car. But mainly I like it because of the friction modifiers and oil stabilizer. Lucas makes an oil stabilizer for synthetic and regular oil, not just this stuff. They make all kinds of products, but it makes the oil want to stick and cling to the gears. And if it's mixed properly, you won't have issues where the oil wants to foam up. I know people complain about that, but honestly, unless you've got the RPMs of a Dremel, 20,000 RPM kind of situation, you're not going to get oil frothing with an oil stabilizer. It should do what it's designed to do if it's used in the proper situation. But anyhow, I'm going to use Lucas in here. That's what I've been using. It's actually a different formula. That right there was gear oil with straight Lucas oil stabilizer, and it was just a regular 80 weight gear oil, and I'm going to their pre-mixed heavy duty ADW 90 gear oil that has the oil stabilizer already in it from the factory instead of me having to mix it up. A little bit more expensive, but a little bit easier to do. So let's get cracking, get this done. Like I said, if I wasn't describing it as I was doing it, it would be a 5-minute job. How easy can this be? They've given you a convenient spout. And, well, first off, before I look like a complete nitwit here, you do want to scoot your oil pan under here, because when it's got the right amount in it, it's going to dribble out slightly. And you just squeeze and squeeze. It doesn't take a lot, so watch it. Now, I've read on forums where people will put kerosene in here because of the abuse I talked about earlier of it not being changed and oil coming out milky white because of the water that got in it for it being there for 20 years or the neglect. Don't ever do that. Just change it more often. Anyhow, when the bike's level, see how it just started getting on the threads? You actually want to put just a little bit more in so it's running out. So it's starting to creep out now. A couple more squirts. There it goes. That's the perfect amount. It doesn't take any more than that. So this thing focuses in. You can see how it's just starting to dribble out. And that seal is clean as can be. And believe it or not, that little bit of oil there actually already kind of oiled this O-ring up. But that's going to be plenty to lubricate this guy as you screw it back in. So we get our 17 mil. And how tight does this have to be? Well, there's a Torx spec for it, but don't bother. Hold the wrench really tight. Put your thumb right on the head of that bolt and get choked up on it. And as soon as it feels snug, you're done. That's it. It won't leak. I'm going to clean up our little bit of excess with our degreaser wipe here. That is it. I have now just serviced the rear gear oil. And this job is so incredibly easy, it just pisses me off to no end that it doesn't get done. It couldn't be easier. It is easier than changing the oil. It is easier than putting gas in a damn bike. And yet it never gets done. On shaft drive bikes, it's always neglected. People don't think about it. And so, I would hate to be the guy who's been on their Gold Wing with 40,000 miles on it, who hasn't changed their gear oil, because, you know, Gold Wings typically get really high miles on them. And people neglect it, just like everything else, and then have the rear wheel seize on them because the bearings fail in the final drive. Wouldn't that be a fun ride? And for my last bit of maintenance here is this is why you don't need to overdo these. A, they're not going to back off, and B, 2 little reference dots will let me know if that bolt ever works its way loose. And since it's this lovely horrid color of fluorescent chartreuse yellowy kind of stuff, I'm not too worried about it. But what you are trying to do is just give yourself a reference to let you know if any of that stuff has backed off. So there we go. Job done. All I gotta do is clean up, take my oil to the recycler, and ride it. Next time, I think I'm going to change this when I change my oil, and I'll do it every time I change oil because it's so easy, so fast. And I already have the oil change container out, so there's no reason not to do it every time I change oil. So there we go. Job done. If I hadn't been blathering on about it, it would have it would have taken like 5-10 minutes tops. It would take you longer to find the Allen key and your 17mm combination wrench or spanner to do the job or to find the actual tools that it does take to do the job. When you buy a used motorcycle, you have to change all this stuff because you can't assume that it's been done. I see these ads all the time because I've looked for a used motorcycle for my wife, and they always say, ready to ride, needs nothing. It's crap country in our state, in Michigan, because our weather is so bad, the riding season's so short that bikes don't get ridden often. It's common to find a bike that's 10-15 years old that only has 6,000-7,000 miles on it or less. I've been eyeballing 2002 Bandit 1200, I think, with 978 miles on it, the original owner. They bought it, never rode it. Now, how much service do you think has actually been done on that bike? It says fresh oil change. I bet you that's the only thing that's been done. Brake fluid hasn't been changed. Nothing else has been looked at. Probably needs to be gone over. I guarantee you that the tires probably need to be replaced regardless of their tread depth, just because of the risk of dry rot. Entry-level bikes get really horrible maintenance in this state because they're not kept very long and they're passed from beginner to beginner. So unless they're dumped on their side or wrecked, the person who buys that bike only keeps it for one season and then they move on to something else. So things like engine oil, believe it or not, people will say it has fresh oil in it. I guarantee you on a lot of these quote-unquote beginner bikes, the oil hasn't been changed in years because they look at the miles and go, oh, bike's only got 1,200 miles on it. Oil's still good. Bike's 5 years old. It's running on the original oil that it came with from the factory. Never changed. Brake fluid never gets changed. All of this stuff, when you buy a used bike, you need to service it. I've been over this on my Super Magna multiple times, and the rear gear oil was the worst. It's 5 minutes of work. It is brain dead easy to do. Even an expensive Lucas gear oil that I put in there, it cost like $8 for that container. It was nothing, and that'll fill up that rear gear case probably 4 times. So it's really not that expensive. Other than just neglect and forgetfulness, there's no excuse for it not to be changed. You should not pull the gear oil out of your shaft drive on your bike and it be white and milky brown from age and water infiltration, because oil and water will mix in the gears and it will turn into this nice, nasty, milky, whitish, brownish garbage. It's terrible. It'll rust parts. It'll ruin your bearings. I am thankful. I've been in there. I've looked at it. I don't have any problems with my wheel bearings. I've actually replaced the rear wheel bearings, but the bearings for the ring and pinion, they're good. None of the seals are bad. I lucked out. But especially if it's a cruiser like a Valkyrie Interstate or I'm probably forgetting a ton of bikes here, or a Goldwing, any of the large cruisers, even the German stuff like the BMW bikes with the shaft drive. Same deal, change it. It's not hard. They're all the same. They got a drain plug and a fill plug. Buy the oil, drain it, fill it back up, done deal. It's so easy. Anyhow, take it easy. Stay safe out on the roads, everyone. Talk to you later.